When it comes to season 2 of Tell Me Lies, the rift between the past and 2015 grows to the point of becoming an issue. And while the second season still finds ways to deliver enough drama for you to hope for season 3, I have to admit, part of it is me hoping that in season 3 it learns from the mistakes of season 2 and bounces back better than ever. So to summarize the season, summer has passed in 2008 and it's fall again, but things haven't really changed much. Steven remains a sociopath that's using Diana for her privilege and network, while he continues to orbit Lucy's life and kind of make it hell. And Lucy, as much as you see her taking interest in other people, specifically a man named Leo, who has his own issues, she still kind of has that pull to Steven that keeps her life from ever truly being free of him. And as all that happens, Pippa continues to deal with the aftermath of what happened in the last season, as she finds herself struggling to be part of this friend group where her friends are kind of really committed to things that she can't really be part of, either because of what happened in the last season or because they're starting to keep secrets from her. But let it be known, she has her own thing / secret she's going through, which in 2015, it's revealed that she's not only queer, but she's also dating Diana. Now, as we'll go into later, that's not fully explained, but we have to remember there's a few more characters left. Bree gets into it with a professor, and because of that relationship, you kind of question, how did we get to the point when her and Evan end up engaged after they had a pretty nasty breakup? But again, there's issues that we'll go into in a minute. And as for everybody else, there's only Wrigley, who's kind of in this stagnant place, but he kind of gets a bit of a wake-up call toward the end of the season. We'll get into the review section. First highlight is that how low Steven will go is just so much fun to watch. For first and foremost, when it comes to Evan, Wrigley, and any other man in Steven's life, there's no stopping him, shaming him, or holding him accountable. So when it comes to him dealing with Lucy, comes to him dealing with Diana, you just see this diabolical man who knows, or at least thinks he knows, how to manipulate the people around him, whether it's by using his power and privilege or kind of feigning vulnerability in order to suck them back in, and just watching the back and forth. It's entertaining. It's messed up, but it is potentially one of the best parts of the season. However, if you want something that's a bit more complex or notable than, Steven doing what he did in season 1, just kind of showing you that he got a formula down, Wrigley, in episode 7 specifically, the actor who plays him, he shows, the actor's name is Spencer House, by the way, he shows that classic issue that a lot of actors have where they can perform, they can do good work, it's just they're limited by the writing of the show. For up to episode 7, Wrigley seems like he's on because they don't know what to do with him, and unfortunately, because in 2015 we see Wrigley, we know that he's sticking around and some stuff happened. But in episode 7, he has multiple situations, one with Steven and another one with Pippa, where they basically cut him down to pieces, and House delivers a type of vulnerability that could potentially get you emotional in ways that you may not expect when it comes to Wrigley to do. Like, when it comes to Wrigley, he's this big, friendly guy, so him crying and, being emotional, it may think you're going to get something like Jason Segel, where it's going to be like How I Met Your Mother, where he's crying, but it's comical and funny, but that's not the case. It's hard-hitting. It's probably one of the hardest-hitting moments of the season, if not series, and again, really shows you that sometimes it's not the actor who's the problem, it's the writers who don't know what to do with the character. And unfortunately, because of that, the actor has to take the hit of the weight for all criticism. Getting to the next highlight. The next highlight has to be Diana, and mainly because of what happens toward the end of the season. For not to spoil what happens, but you may think, based off of Diana being very isolated this season and not really having any real friendships, even though she does communicate with Wrigley and Pippa, that maybe she's just very okey doke. And no matter what she sees from Steven, no matter what Lucy may say, she has rose colored glasses, blinders on, can't tell her nothing. But then that ending hits, and it renewed my faith in the character so much. Which leads to the last highlight, and that's the character Leo, who unfortunately seems to be a one-season character, but honestly, he gave so much that I wish that this show would have given us for a second season, because when it comes to Leo, he was written with some type of complexity and built-in interest. For Leo wasn't perfect. He wasn't the knight in shining armor compared to the villain that Steven was. Leo had anger issues. He seemingly was doing the work to get through them. And when it came to his relationship with Lucy, he addressed and held her accountable despite her trying to do all the toxic things that perhaps got Steven off or even her off to a certain point. And he pushed for them to be a better couple and her to be a better person. This felt very out of place for what Tell Me Lies in general gives you, and I kind of appreciate that because it kind of pushed the idea that for season 2 they wanted real growth rather than just more of the same or trying to up the ante a little bit so that it doesn't bore people. Yet, unfortunately, Leo's a one-season character as shown by Lucy dating someone else in 2015, and while he does go out with a bang, unfortunately, the chances of us seeing Leo come back are pretty slim to none. Which leads to the on-the-fence topic, and first and foremost is Bree's storyline. Bree was that nice, innocent, maybe to some point naive girl from Jersey, grew up in a foster home, and in this season, they decide to make her go on a good girl gone bad storyline, which, for me, it took away a lot of the appeal when it came to Bree, since they didn't replace that with anything. They send her on this journey when she's someone's mistress. And yet, when she comes out of it, all they did was just ruin her character and not really bring something to replace any type of interest with. Like, I get that Evan did what he did in season 1. I get that Bree has the right to react the way she did, but I don't know. I feel like there's so many different ways they could have handled the situation, and the way they decided to do things, even if they put Tom Ellis as a love interest, it just felt... I mean, granted, I don't know what happens in the book, so maybe this is the book storyline, maybe this is made up. It's hard to tell. Either way, this is definitely one of those situations where you see that they don't necessarily know what to do with a character to keep them interesting, compelling. But unlike what we saw with Wrigley, there was no comeback. There was not a don't look at the actor, it's the writer situation. This is just a whole situation where both the writers and actors clearly, even if you have Bree pushed up against the wall having sex with Tom Ellis, it's not hot. It's not interesting. It's just messiness for the sake of messiness, with this really not benefiting the character in any shape or capacity in the long term. Just something salacious in the short term to remind you that, hey, they exist. Which leads to the next on-the-fence topic, and that's that the past no longer connects and makes sense with what's happening in 2015. Like, the whole Pip and Diana situation, how they go from pseudo-friends that kind of have a iffy kind of relationship to then being together, possibly living together. Never mind Diana going from being with a guy to now being with a woman, either as a bisexual, pansexual, maybe Pippa being an exception or whatever. There's no information on that. And it's one of the many things that make it so in season 1 you can at least see the furrow line between the 7-year gap. But now things are diverging to the point where it's like, how in the world did things go from Evan cheating on Bree in season 1, breaking up in season 2, Bree going on this journey with a professor, and then 7 years down the line the two are engaged to be married? It doesn't make sense. Never mind, add in everything that Lucy and Steven been through season 1, what he does in season 2, and then they're still orbiting each other in 2015. this friend group does not make sense, and there's no real effort to make it so that 7-year gap doesn't seem like it's missing a whole lot of information that should have been filled in this season and not pushed off to another season to play catch up. Which leads to the last on the fence topic, and that's Stephen. So, this is one of those cases where the writing is good, but the performance is kind of eh. For writing wise, what Stephen says, what he does, the man's crazy, man's entertaining. But there's something about watching the gentleman who plays Stephen, his name's Jackson White, and he gives the same facial expression, damn near the same vocal inflection, and it's something that you notice maybe only if you're really like taking notes and really watching this man closely. But I don't know, after some point I was just like, I need something more. I'm way too used to what he's giving. And then when Wrigley's character in episode 7 showed that, these actors can actually perform and do something, it really put on notice that there's something wrong with some of these actors and their performances. It's not the writing. You can't blame the writing for everything. Sometimes it's just the actors, not someone who can take it to the next level. And while it might be good enough for shows like Tell Me Lies, which has a young adult audience, it's made for people who like messiness, in terms of them actually having a career once this show eventually ends, not to be mean, but it seems like they're definitely going to have like the type of careers where it's going to end up in the void of TV movies that if you like that specific channel, you'll know their work, especially as they do one holiday movie after another. But outside of that, in terms of being like breakout and getting beyond this show, I would submit with the way that White is performing now, this might be the high point of his career, unless he gets that moment like House did with Wrigley to show that this is not all he can do. But overall, when it comes to season 2 of Tell Me Lies, it pushes you to wonder how much time does a show need to find its rhythm. Yes, you can see that it has a certain formula when it comes to Steven and Lucy's relationship, but when it comes to the other characters, how much time is needed to have it so when you could have Leo-type characters across the board, where you could have it where situations or performances like we saw with Wrigley in episode 7, that's not a surprise or one-time thing, but something that's consistent. Or when it comes to characters like Pip and Diana, you can build on a queer relationship, see one person kind of discovering or realizing their sexuality, and it be treated as something that isn't something to kind of plant seeds on for down the line messiness. Like, there's so many ways that you see that Tell Me Lies can do better, but for whatever reason it doesn't. And there's this worry that if it stays on the path that it's on, it's just gonna end up in a slow decline, especially as it continues on, because while Steven is entertaining in terms of what he does, it's gonna lose its luster. Seeing Lucy keep orbiting around this man who clearly is toxic is not good for her. And with them decimating Pre's character, who knows if that's just the first of many they're gonna do, especially going on season 3, where at that point Diana, I believe, should be graduating, Steven should be graduating, Wrigley perhaps as well, which means this show would be even further splintered between 2015, 2008 or 2009, and then characters still being in school and others trying to find jobs and a life outside of that.